This is Sophia Izquierdo with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the University of Florida. Today is April 12th, 2025 at, I think, 10 a.m.?
Close
Yeah, close enough. And we are at the Blunt Building in Pensacola to interview Charles Collins for the Pensacola Environmental Oral History Program. I am joined by my colleagues from the Oral History Program and the Gulf Scholars Program. Now, Charles, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Charles Collins. I'm originally from Texas, but I've lived here for over 30 years now. So, yeah, and I can tell you a few things.
How did you come to Pensacola? What brought you here?
I was in the Navy, and it was my first duty station was here in Pensacola, and actually it was my last duty station. So I started here and ended here.
What neighborhood do you live in here?
I live in Pace. That's north of Pensacola.
And did your family move here as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. I brought them with me. Yeah. Yeah. But my immediate family is still in Texas, though. But yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you or your family have ties to the Superfund sites here? Do you live near any Superfund sites?
I used to live nearby, not real near there, but it was close enough to be concerning. At that time, I lived in Spencer Oaks Landing, and the Superfund site was just southeast of me by maybe 4 miles. But the plume was enlarging from what I could see from the newspaper reports, and it was getting just bigger and bigger over time. And I have not seen any data from that since, I'm going to say 05. And that's 20 years ago, and nobody's done anything. So I haven't seen anybody cleaning anything up. No funds been allocated. So I bet that's still there.
Yeah. So by the time you moved here, was it already declared a Superfund site? What year did you move here?
I came back here in 2000 when I first became aware, and I remember it was that first year I read that it was already declared a Superfund site. And I did a little research on that, and they had actually passed a series of things to get this moving, but it never got moving.
So by the time you moved here, it was already, yeah.
Superfund.
What was your experience like on the Navy base here?
I won't get myself in trouble here. You mean as far as environmental?
Just in general.
The Navy base was great. But environmental things have changed over the years. I'm an older person. I remember in the 70s, you poured your oil over on the back fence. That everybody did that, but you don't do that today. So the Navy used to do things that they probably weren't supposed to do that they're not doing anymore.
Can you give me any examples of that?
We're in little gray areas here. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
You can't say.
I'll let the Navy speak for that one.
So generally in Pensacola, with your family, your family or yourself, what is your relationship to pollution here?
Well, I guess we all, we're environmentally minded. I put out recycling. Probably only half my neighbors do. But all my kids are very much they're very, we don't trash and we don't purposely do things we know are going to damage the environment. And I've brought my kids up that way, so they do the same. So yeah, we have respect for the environment. We don't leave anything behind, put it that way.
In the past 30 years that you've been here, do you feel that in general people have a certain attitude towards pollution in Pensacola?
I think slowly over time it's changed for the better. People are more aware of it, but I think people have fallen into that it's somebody else's problem. I know it exists, but it's not my problem. And people have kind of gotten lax on that.
Can you describe a few examples of that, maybe?
Well, actually, I can go the other way. When I first got here, people used to dump debris out off farm roads all the time. Your household debris, they just drop it out. They don't do that much anymore with the advent of all the cameras and everything else. They're going to get caught. So that has dropped considerably now that I think about it. People don't dump waste like that anymore.
Generally, and also in terms of the environment, what are the changes that you've seen in Pensacola over the last 30 years that you've been here?
I've seen some weird weather, that's for sure. Were y'all aware of last January here? We got 10 inches of snow. I mean, there was snow piled up to the surf on the beach. I've never seen anything like that here. That's something. We've had a slurry of hurricanes, but we've always had those. So does Gainesville. So, but other than that, yes, I can say that, because when I first got here at the Crist Power Plant off of Highway 90, they were putting out particulates, and I had a swimming pool in the backyard. And every month I would get a slick black film around the ring of that pool, and it was hard to get off. I have to rub it. That was from the particulates from that power plant. Then they made them, I don't remember what year it was, they made them install some scrubbers on that. When those scrubbers got going, particulates dropped to zero. I never had to wipe that pool ever again. So, and with that scrubber system out there, they take the waste and convert it into gypsum, make sheetrock out of it. And so that's a good thing for the environment. But I think they switched over to natural gas, is it? They're burning now? But yeah, that's one thing. So the air has cleaned up. Now the controlled burns we do around here, it does get smoky at times, but I imagine you got professional people on this and they know what they're doing. So, but yeah, that's I didn't think about that. And one other thing, the particulates and the paper mill out in Cantonment north of here. When I first got here, God, you couldn't get within 2 miles of that plant. It would make you sick to your stomach. It was just stunk so bad. But they have made them install things and clean up that atmosphere, and it's a lot better. You can't even tell it's the same place anymore. So that's quite an improvement out there.
Wow. And the power plant, were you living close to the power plant if you had, a ring around your pool?
I was living, I would say probably 4 miles from that plant. So yeah, I mean, I could tell when the minute them scrubbers went on, I quit having to clean that pool like that. That was a big one.
And did you see any other changes to the environment because of the plant? You talked about the plume a little bit. Describe, was there like smells even, or what did it look like? Oh,
for the Crist plant, you could see like a very light black haze on the horizon. Now, it's not a sunset haze. It was during the day. And you're going, where's that coming from? Smoke? It's coming from that particulates. Yeah, because that stuff was coming out pretty good back then. They've switched to something else, and I don't know what it is now. I guess I'm going to have to do some research.
So it's still being used?
Still being used. But it's burning clean, whatever they're using now. And I think they're affiliated with Florida Power and Light, and they use some Alabama plants, and they share electricity now, so I'm not sure how that works.
Do you know if your neighbors experienced any issues with the plant, like in the same ways that you did?
No, that I don't know. That I do not know. But I know for a fact that was them particulates, for a fact, because you could tell it's like an oily, slick. So I'm from Texas. When we used to swim on the beach, you get natural oil seepage out there in the Gulf, and you'd come out and you'd have like little tar balls on your hair, and you're like, where did that come from? It's just that oil floating around out there. Yeah.
And for you or your family, was there ever concern, about health risks being close to the plant, or, the particulates in the air?
Yes, there was. My wife has asthma, and back then her asthma was bothering her a lot more. But, you don't know whether it's the better drugs they got today or whether it's the better atmosphere. But I'm gonna say she breathes better because those particulates are gone.
Yeah. Do you know anyone else who had health risks because of the particulates?
No, because at the time I was working nights and I really didn't have much of a social life. I had to sleep during the day, so yeah, I didn't really talk to a whole lot of people that lived in my area.
So I'm assuming in the Navy you probably worked with a lot of people from different parts of Pensacola.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Did you hear a lot about the Superfund sites? I know you talked about the paper mill, but just how it was contaminating the environment and, what that experience was like for them as well?
I didn't know anybody that lived in the immediate area there, but, I put it this way, there was a convenience store right there on the corner. I wouldn't go in there and buy liquids. I felt weird about it. I don't know why. It's just like, I know it's contaminated right underneath me. I don't want to drink anything out of the store. It's nothing to it, but that's just the way I felt, you know. No, I can't really say I knew anybody that was directly affected by it like that. You know, somebody that maybe lost their home or something. Well, there is one other environmental issue, I guess, but it's weather related. But up in Cantonment, they used to, I bet that's my wife. Sorry. I'll call you back. Bye. But, sorry about that, let me turn this off. But it was weather related. Every time they have heavy rains, I mean, this water just goes down the street and washes these people's homes out, and they've rebuilt them 2 or 3 times, and it just keeps happening. It's like, what's going on? And that was a result of them building something out there, and I think that had something to do with the paper mill out there in Cantonment. So,
was it maybe the relocation?
Maybe. That one you may want to look into, but that was a popular hit. You probably pull up Pensacola News Journal and see articles on that one. And I bet you can do the same thing with the plume. You guys ever use that Wayback Time Machine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go in there and pull up some articles on that. It was either air liquide or liquid air. And from, say, the early 2000s, and you'll see that plume. They had an article in the paper. They showed the area where it was contaminated. Have you guys already seen this? Okay, so you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. Great, okay. Yeah, maybe that'll help you, hopefully.
No, for sure it will. And before we did this interview, you and I talked a little bit about how like the sites are still really contaminating the ground. Can you talk a little bit about, have you seen any cleanup efforts? You know?
I have not seen any cleanup efforts. My degree, I had a degree in political science, and I keep up with politics, and I have seen no money allocated for these Superfund. I've seen things moving through the upper echelons of our government, but nothing has transpired at the local level that I'm aware of. So I've seen no cleanup trucks or crews of any kind in there. Now, they may have been doing some cleanup in there. I don't know. But it's not being made public if it is.
So maybe you haven't really seen a large difference yet, or because of the cleanup site, isn't really being cleaned up. What do you think needs to happen for that to improve?
They're gonna have to go down there and figure out a way to get those chemicals out of the ground, because they're just gonna leach into the water tables and eventually be out there in the Gulf. And this has been going on for, gosh, I'm just gonna guess and say 40 years. So imagine how over time how chemicals can go out. There was a site here, they were burying PCBs underground, real deep, claiming that, they'll never come up, but anybody that knows geology knows better than that. So eventually everything comes up and around. Now that was near here, I thought. What was that, Solutia? Was that the name of the company they were actually boring down on the ground, putting some of the nastiest chemicals you can think of down there. It was very deep. I think it was like 3,000 feet. I mean, it was really deep. But, yeah. I forgot all about that one. Trying to think of anything else. I can say I think the bays, the Blackwater River and Escambia Bays, are cleaner than they used to be. Because I know back in the 70s, they dumped PCBs in the Escambia Bay up there. And to this day on their website, they warn people don't eat over this amount of fish per week, because the PCB contaminates. And PCBs never go away. They just settle to the bottom and stay there. Yeah, we do have several. Our oyster population is virtually gone here. It's like non-existent anymore. We used to have lots of oysters. It's coming to memory now. When I first got here, when I'd fish back in 1984, all you could ever catch out here in the bay was whiting fish. All right. Now you can't find a single whiting. I can't find one. They're all gone. I don't know why. Wonder what got them.
Yeah. Wow. That's really.
Wonder if they're tied in with the oysters.
Yeah. Maybe. Probably. So you seem to have a lot of memory about the environmental history here. Do you think that in Pensacola there's a general awareness about the environment? People are interested in it or they know about what's happening. And how has this changed since you've gotten here to now?
In all honesty, I would say these people here are probably the median. They're probably middle of the road when it comes to environment. But they're slowly getting better, but it's going very slowly. I mean, you have to tell people, and there's still always those people who just refuse and just will not comply with any environmental restrictions. Just going to do whatever they want. We've had a lot of debris in the bay from hurricanes and stuff, and I don't know what kind of impact that has. Always wondered about all these ships we sink out there, all the metal and toxicities out there. That stuff leaches out in the water eventually too, so. Yeah, that's about all I can think of. I don't think I can think of anything more. Let me see. No? That's about it.
Well, for you, what is the importance of, keeping the environment here clean and, fixing pollution, cleaning things up for you or your family?
Oh, everything is so much better when there's not trash blowing around, and people pick up after themselves and comply with, trash laws and fire burning laws. It just makes it more comfortable for everybody to live and work and breathe.
Yeah, for sure. And we are asking everyone this question kind of at the end of our interviews. What does justice look like for you?
That is an interesting question. Environmental justice or justice in general?
Both, either.
Wow, because that's a Socratic question. I've read a lot on this one. Socrates used to ask, what is justice? Argue with people. Justice, I guess I got to equate it to, it would be doing the right thing. And I guess everybody has their own version of doing the right thing, but I think common sense, I'd say 98% of us agree on what doing the right thing would be. When it comes to the environment, most people are just lazy. You got to stop, take the time, put forth the effort, and do the right thing. That's all it is. They just get lazy and want to just dump it somewhere or make it somebody else's problem.
And to you, what would the ideal cleanup situation look like?
That is a good question. I guess I could just sum it up and say it would look like downtown Singapore. That is the prettiest place I've ever been. There's not a piece of trash on the street, not a bad dressed person. It's like, wow, I guess that's what it looked like. Very clean, the air down there in Singapore, but it helps. Everybody's pretty rich there in Singapore. But that's probably the prettiest place I've ever been, Singapore. Cleanest.
Did you go with the Navy?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a senior shore patrol out there, so I got to roam the whole city.
Oh, wow.
I got to do all that stuff.
That's a really interesting answer, actually. I don't think we've had an answer like that. I think I'm going to turn questions over to my colleagues, see if they have any questions for you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Tenner.
Ryan.
I have a few questions for you. First of all, in your time here in the past few decades, how have you seen the city just grow, like expanding, suburbanizing, that sort of thing?
Pensacola is not a city that explodes and grows. In fact, when I was here in '84 and I came back in 2000, I went, wow, this place hasn't changed. It's not a very expansive. It doesn't grow very fast. It grows in small stages. But I guess Pensacola is best described as a retirement-light community, because all the retirees move on the outskirts and homes, and they use facilities in Pensacola. But yeah, all in all, it's kind of a sleepy little hollow beach town. Unlike Gainesville, party town.
Do you like it that way? Do you like that it's a smaller?
Yes, I do, especially the beaches, because if you know the right times to hit the beaches, you can really have a good time without all the crowds, But you hit them during the crowds. Whew.
Yeah, I can imagine. I also want to ask, going back to the cleanup efforts, how do you think we get the government, but also the community involved in those efforts?
Probably education and awareness. Let the local public around that area know you got a plume right near you and it may be affecting you. You know, what's your water source? That's another thing just brought up a thing. I read these water reports we get from my local water report, and everything is on the line. I mean, that makes me highly suspicious. I'm going, I know statistics. Nothing works right down the line like that. Somebody might be fudging numbers on that one.
That's really interesting. Why do you read the water reports? What draws you to them?
You know, probably because after I read that report about that Superfund site, it concerned me. And I'm going, are there other places around here that I'm not aware of? You know, are they pumping stuff under the ground and building homes on top of it? Yeah, so I just kind of picked up on that over there.
That's probably for the better to be informed. And my last question is, you spoke a few times about people being lazy or lax about the environment. You mentioned education. Is there anything else the community can do to get people more involved and to care about the environment here?
As far as organization, you know, I'm not really aware of any large environmental group here, or not large, but really of any significant environmental group here. There may be a few out there on the beach that try to keep it clean, but yeah, that's why I say we're kind of middle of the road, because there's not really a huge pro-environmental, or there's not an anti-environmental. So we're kind of right in the middle.
Interesting. Do you have any?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Peter Vinogradov behind the camera here.
Peter?
Yeah. So kind of asking a little bit more about community, maybe not like, if there's not like an official group that you've worked or talked with, is there any like friends or neighbors that you might have had this like a similar discussion with, talking about just that local environment, ecology, noticing things happen in the water or the land, just kind of in maybe more casual conversation?
Yeah, maybe, you know, my oldest daughter and her husband are real environmental types, and they moved to Oregon, and they love it up there because it's, you know, it's the outdoorsy thing. It's very, very pristine, but they were very environmental. They probably influenced me to some degree to say, hey, Dad, don't throw those batteries in that trash can. You know, you're supposed to dispose of those right. I'm going, you know, you're right. Let's do the right thing. So, yeah. But over time, it's picking up, but probably not as fast as it should. People should probably be more aware of environmental issues.
All right. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem.
All right. And before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to add or you feel like we missed?
Go Gators.
Go Gators. Thank you very much.
No problem. And my oldest daughter was a Gator.
Oh, awesome.